the last brown one, and this one right here you see in the film, the back heel part is made from lycra neoprene. It's a very soft and spongy material that's very giving, but again, those pieces you see being completed together with the Velcro. The Velcro is holding it in the proper place, and then they'll do a final stitch at the bottom where my finger is and my thumb is to seal those two pieces together so that at the bottom they become one solid piece, because otherwise when you're lasting them they will separate. Here are the pieces with the foam inserts above them. The foam is antimicrobial, and that was put in between the two pieces of leather to provide a more hygiene environment, plus the foam adds to comfort. We use the antimicrobial foam to kill bacteria, so absolutely there was no foot odor involving these shoes. This is a process where they're putting the foam inside there. They sprayed the foam with glue, and they sprayed the inside of the shoe with glue, and now they're putting the pieces together with the foam inside, making sure that it's completely sealed up as they pass the shoe down the line. So these young ladies are also putting in the toe puff, which adds rigidity to the toe area of the shoe, so that when you last it, it maintains the shape of the last. And should someone step on the toe, it doesn't just collapse down and become a flat piece of leather. It actually maintains the shape of the last, rigidity in a three-dimensional shape. So these are called toe puffs, and this station is manned where they put glue on the pieces and they glue it inside the uppers and then pass it on down. She's taking the foam piece now, adding it to the shoe after she put the toe piece on. So this is a very hand labor aspect to make these shoes. There are some machines that are used to do certain parts of it, like the sewing, but you can see the cutting and this part where they're adding the padding inside there. It's all done by hand. So this is a very labor-intensive process of making shoes, and all of these pieces that you see them working with initially were cut by the gentleman at the beginning who did all the cutting. The people working these stations, unfortunately, are some of the lower wage employees at the shoe factory. They tend to be women, and they are happily working. They're happy to be getting a full-time, full paycheck and having a full-time job, but they're not as well paid as a typical man who does the cutting or does the lasting or does the sewing. So just for your information. This is the area in which they steam the uppers. You can see some of the uppers on the top, and they work through a cycle. That silver machine inside that you see in the center of the film is a steamer, and they'll put the uppers inside there so that they can get a little moist from the steam chamber, and the moisture inside the leather will allow the leather to form around the last and not split. It's a way of making sure that the finished product doesn't have any problems. So now he took one of the shoes out of the box that was steamed, and he's stretching it over the aluminum last that's over to the side, making sure that all the wrinkles and any imperfections or deformalities or deformities are taken out of the leather. So he's taking the leather, he's going to hit it a little bit, making sure that where the stitching is or anything like this, there will not be any binding done around the leather. It'll all fit nice and snug, wrinkle-free when it goes onto the last. So he's more or less pre-stretching the leather so that when he does last it, it fits uniformly without any problems. So the moisture and the humidifier allows the leather to stretch and be a little bit easier pliable, would you say, around the last, because it's real critical with this upper being hand sewn that they don't strip the thread or break the thread as they last it, because if they're too tight on the lasting, that's one of the machines that they use, it can break the thread. In this case, for this hand sewn shoes, because it's small production, they'll hand last them, but sometimes they use a machine last, and it can break these the threads on the uppers. So they got to be careful and make sure that it's nice and soft. So there's one of the lasts. It's one of the plastic lasts that the shoe's actually going to be made on as they're making the shoe. But they're going to stretch it around the leather around the last, making sure it fits properly. He's putting it on the last jack so that he can put the back part of the shoe on. Again, some of these shoes had lycra neoprene in the back, but it does have that leather strap around the back holding it in place. So he wants to make sure that there's a nice snug fit so there's no looseness, because if it's loose, then it's not going to make a good shoe when it goes into the machine. So now he's just putting it in there. It's inside the last, and the shoe is inside there. He's putting the back piece in there to making sure that the shoe doesn't stick to the last when it comes time to pull it out. Because sometimes the leather will get wet and it'll stick to the plastic of the last, and it'll damage the leather as they're taking it out. So this is a way to make sure that the shoe doesn't get damaged when they take it apart. Because right now they can bend the leather, bend the upper very flexibly the way it's made, because there is no sole. But after they put the sole on it, it'll be a little bit more rigid and they won't have that same flexibility. So they got to make sure that when they take the last out, it doesn't damage the shoe. So he's working his process where he's taking various shoes out, left foot on a left last and a right shoe on a right last. And he just works his time going through the procedure, getting them pre-prepped, getting them wrinkled previously on the metal last, and now he's doing the final lasting with the plastic last, getting them prepared to go through the process of having the soles put on. So he'll keep doing this as he works his way through the various sizes, keeping the leather, keeping the shoes inside the box so they're nice and steamed. And then they'll go through another process afterwards. But he keeps working his process, making sure that everything's properly lasted. And every once in a while they'll break something because something won't be properly aligned, and it'll break those threads or something like that. Much like that Nike shoe that was blown up from that Duke player, Williamson, a few weeks ago. The shoes were just made. This is the exact same construction of that shoe, just a different sole, obviously, and a different logo. Here you can see the shoes getting ready to be placed into a heating machine. The gentleman's making sure that both shoes, left and right, are equally mated, same size, same elevation for the heel strap, because I made sure that they understood the placement of that strap was real important. So he's making sure that the placement of the strap in relationship to the last and the left shoe and right shoe proportionally are both the same location. Because after the shoes are made, you can't redo the shoe, whereas before the shoe is injected with the polyurethane, you could modify any imperfection and make corrections accordingly. So we put a few different quality control areas in the production to make sure that the final shoe would come out as best as possible. So here again, the gentleman was just checking to make sure that before they got to the final stage, they were good to go. So this brings us to the end of part 1. We thank you very much for watching this. We hope you stay tuned for part 2 to watch the end of the making of the shoes. If you have any questions about making perfect fitting shoes, please email me at jimr@perfectfittingshoes.com, and I'll be glad to answer any questions or comments. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy your day. Bye-bye.